I'm Laura Cross of Rebel Seed Films and Entertainment. I'm the writer and producer of the short action war drama Devil Dogs. And in this special podcast, I have a conversation with an actor from the film. Today I'm talking with actor Andrew Onochie, who plays Private First Class Keller in Devil Dogs. Andrew started acting at the tender age of 5 by entertaining his family at the dinner table. Eventually, he went on to perform at church plays and school talent shows before moving to Los Angeles to launch his movie career. He is known for completely dedicating himself to his roles, and he can currently be seen in the feature film Tempting Fate.
Hey, Andrew, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here today.
Thank you very much, Laura. So great to be here.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
So it was so much fun working with you on Devil Dogs, but I'd like to go way, way back to the beginning and ask you about your life when you were young. I know that you're from Nigeria and you grew up in Brooklyn.
Right. I mean, I would have to say those are fun times. I mean, it was it was amazing. It really was. Well, like you said, I was actually born in Nigeria. Grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and
New York. I heard a little bit of an accent there, Andrew.
Oh, you're going to hear a lot of it, you know, it's just because I'm actually working on a project right now that requires me bringing my accent back. But, you know, I will talk more about that. But it was really, really fun. It was great because you get to – the life in Nigeria is completely different from here in America, as you know. It's a different lifestyle in terms of, you know, just how, you know, poverty is stricken in Nigeria. It's so hard. It's hard to even go day by day and, you know, and get food, you know, just to eat or clean drinking water. But fortunately, my parents, I wouldn't say that they were wealthy, but, you know, we did very well for ourselves. My dad was an accountant and my mom was an evangelist. So the money came in and we had like a bunch of like, you know, food chain restaurants that, you know, my parents like oversaw. So we had money and we were able to live, you know, comfortably, I would say. But later on when my dad really started, you know, losing his jobs and losing some of the chain restaurants that he had, that's when we really saw what Nigeria was all about. Like, it was really difficult at those times, and I would say those were like the early 90s. It was so hard for us as far as living, and just, you know, they had something called NEPA, which means basically it's like Con Edison over here, or whoever owns the powers, you know, could just easily take your electricity away from you. So you could be living in darkness for weeks. So we had that happen to us, and it's all part of you know, the way the government basically controls the people back there. So it was extremely difficult. But the good thing about it was my dad studied in college out here in America. So he went to Adelphi University in New York. So he came back over here and really started studying again to get his master's, I believe it was. And while he was here, he got a bright idea to, you know, just get his entire family out here to the United States. And once he thought of that, he started working on the visa and got my older sister and my older brother out here first. And then when he got here, he was able to raise some more money to send myself, my younger sisters, and my mom out here. So we all came out in 1997 all together as a family. So, but my life in Brooklyn was great because it was a different lifestyle from Nigeria. Everything was pretty much brand new to me. I was learning so many different things that I never learned while I was back in Nigeria. And the schools.
So how old were you when you actually arrived here in the U.S.?
I just turned 12 years old when I arrived here. When I arrived in New York, I just turned 12, and the school systems were completely different. In Nigeria, I felt like I got I wouldn't say a better education, but I was more advanced. education-wise. I remember coming here, and they had to drop me down 2 grades. And I was kind of bummed about it, but I really didn't understand what it meant also. So, but I found myself excelling in school very well, doing very well in school. But as far as like just the living situation, my dad got a regular job, and he was, we were well off, because we were kids that weren't very demanding. We didn't want like the fancy clothes or the fancy shoes or anything like that. Whatever our parents got us was what it was.
Was there like a culture shock though? I mean, coming here at such an impressionable age too, 12 years old, coming from where you did come from to
Absolutely.
Brooklyn of all,
Absolutely. It was a huge culture shock. It was, the way people spoke was different. And I wouldn't say, we spoke English in Nigeria. Everyone spoke English in Nigeria, but it was just, with the American accent, it was completely different, So I had to adjust to that as well. And, learning little things like, how to play basketball. We never played basketball in Nigeria. We always played soccer in Nigeria, which we called football back there. But over here, there's football.
Very different than soccer. And
completely different,
we're not huge soccer fans in the States. I mean, you can find some, but
yeah,
really it's football, basketball, baseball, hockey.
Exactly. I had to learn hockey. I didn't know what hockey was. I didn't know what football was. I didn't know what what's the other sport? Basketball. I had no idea what it was. So those were all learning experiences for me.
And were you a sports guy at that? In your teen years?
Oh my goodness, I was a huge sports guy. I played soccer in Nigeria. Then when I came to the United States, my cousin lived right next door to us, so he had a basketball hoop hooked up to his backyard. And I remember going right after school every day to his backyard, and a bunch of kids from Brooklyn, around our neighborhood, would be playing basketball. And I never understood the sport. I never knew the rules. I had no idea. So, but I would ask my cousin. I was like, well, what's the point of this game? And he would say, just literally put the ball in the basket. That's all you have to do. So I was like, so you just have to put this ball in that basket, and that's it. And he goes, yeah, that's it. And somehow, some way, I really got good at it, and just I would watch a lot of basketball. I would watch a lot of, like, Michael Jordan was my biggest.
And
he was my idol.
You're a fairly tall guy. I mean, I don't know how basketball players are really tall, but
yeah.
Were you tall? I think you're about 6'2", right?
I'm 6'2", yeah.
6'2" now. So, when did you grow? When did you reach that height in your
I would have to say I'd say probably at 16 years old was when I hit my peak. I grew up I was really short because my dad is about 5'6", to be honest with you, and my mom is 5'11", so she towers over my father, so I got most of my height from my mom, but it was until I hit the age of 16, we had a summer camp at my church. I don't know. I believe I grew about 4 or 5 inches in one summer. It was insane. But I peaked at 6'2", and I've been 6'2" ever since. But when I was younger, I was a lot shorter than the rest of the guys, around my neighborhood. So I would always get beat in basketball or not get picked in basketball until I really hit my peak at 6'2". So, yeah.
And Michael Jordan was the guy that you looked up to.
I looked up to him. I watched him against the Lakers. I watched him against the New York Knicks. He always beat the New York Knicks, and I was like, who is this guy? He was very intriguing, and just the way he carried himself, the way he played, the way he spoke, the way he walked, I was just so intrigued by him, and, he was a huge influence on me as far as work ethic and just how to carry yourself the right way, the professional way, So Jordan was a big one, and there are a whole bunch of other ones, like my father, of course, and Denzel Washington, and I looked up to a lot of people growing up.
So we've established you were definitely a sports guy in high school. Were you doing any acting at that time? Was there any draw to theater or stage?
Yeah. Absolutely. It started off, I was always in the drama club through middle school, high school, and college as well. I was always involved in something that had to do with drama or stage or theater, but I never really felt like I belonged at first. Like it says on my bio, pretty much I've been acting since I was 5 years old. I would entertain my family at the dinner table with friends and other things. I would watch a movie at the age of 5, and I will mimic everything that I see in the movies. But it started that way, and then my mom had this great idea to put me in some of the church talent shows that we had at the age of 5, and I will excel. I will pretty much get most of the leading roles, and the drama teachers would just be astounded by some of the stuff that I did on stage, and just the charisma and the confidence that I had on stage. That they would approach my mom. They would really encourage her to tell me to take some more acting classes or put me in commercials and and other things like that. So my mom really, she only did it for fun, but after a while, she was able to see the talent and see that, hey, my son might be onto something here. So she really started, taking me out to commercials and things like that in Nigeria. And then I started booking a few things here and there, and, started getting a few stage shows in Nigeria. And when I came out here in New York, it was more of trying to establish my son as a doctor. She had a change of heart or something like that. So she wanted me to go to school, get my education.
To be a doctor?
Yeah, she wanted me to be a doctor.
Did you express any inclination toward the medical field?
No, not at all. Like, I did not tell her anything about me wanting to be a doctor whatsoever. I wanted to play a doctor, but I didn't want to be a doctor. But Nigerian parents, they really have this mentality that you have to do something very valuable with your life, and you have to take your careers very seriously. And at that point in my life, I guess she felt that acting would not be the way to go. To get my education and be something important in this world would be what she wanted for me. So, but as time went on and I kept pressing to be an actor, and I was very persistent, and I'm the kind of person that if I hear a no, I believe the only thing, if somebody tells me no, the only thing that I hear is yes, or the only thing that I hear in my mind is you can do better, and you can convince that person to say a yes. So I'm always very headstrong when it comes to that, and very, very persistent. So I kept pushing for it, and I kept pushing for it for years.
That definitely serves you well as an actor. Well, actually, in any career, it would serve you well.
Absolutely.
Because you really need that positive energy to keep pushing forward when you have a vision of something and nobody else can see it, right? You've just got to keep moving toward it. So did you get onto any other path, or were you just always on the path of being an actor? Were you planning to go to college for anything else, or did you know? Yeah. Look, I'm gonna be a theater major.
You know what? I did go to college. I went to college. I studied. I was just trying to impress my parents, basically. So I studied to become an accountant, just like my dad was. And I was excelling in that. I was pretty good in that. But for some weird reason, my artistic mind just could not let me rest. It just kept, bugging me about, I would have dreams about me being in Hollywood or in Los Angeles, and my face would be on a billboard or anything like that, or something like that. And I would wake up in cold sweat and just say, oh my God, like, this is crazy, But at that point, I was going to college to become an accountant. I went to Interboro Institute, and then I didn't graduate. I just basically left that school, and I was accepted to Pace University, and I switched majors from accounting to computer science. So the computer science...
so much closer to acting.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like I kept drifting away from acting. It was just so crazy. And I remember being in calculus classes, and the teacher would be speaking, and I would just sit there and just kind of just gaze off to somewhere completely different, and my mind would just go to this imaginative world of just, what are you doing here? Like, I would turn the classroom into like a field or something like that. Like my mind was just so crazy. Like it would go to a different space, So
really you were trying to force yourself to be someone that you weren't.
Exactly.
And your subconscious was trying to get you back on your path.
It was trying to get me back to where I belong, and for a long time I really didn't listen to it. I just thought it was just my mind, just it's just me being crazy, basically. But after a while, I was like, you know what, this is exactly what I need to be doing. This is what I need to get on. So,
let's stop there for a second. Let me ask you: was there some sort of inciting incident that made you go, "Hey, I need to get back on this course"?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for me was I went to South Shore High School in Brooklyn, New York, and to be honest with you, this school was it was the second worst high school in Brooklyn. The first one was called Erasmus Hall, I believe it was called, and South Shore High School was the second worst high school. There were a bunch of people smoking weed and people cutting classes and people even getting stabbed, right in front of the school. It was really, really sad, but that's the reality of it. And I ended up not graduating because I needed about, I think, 4 or 5 more units to graduate, but I didn't want to go to summer school for it. I was just really upset the fact that I wasn't able to graduate because I needed to go to summer school for 4 or 5 more units. So I ended up not graduating, and that right there was something that propelled me to do better in life. I was really upset about that. At the age of 18, I left Brooklyn, New York, and I actually came out to Los Angeles without even telling my parents whatsoever. So my parents had no idea that I was coming out to Los Angeles. So I came out. I knew no one here whatsoever, and I basically just walked around Hollywood. I just wanted to see and feel and engage and just be a part of this lifestyle that I've been dreaming about for a long time. And I remember my mom would call me all the time on the phone and say, "Hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? What are you doing out there? Come back home," and things like that. So I would say that was really what changed my life. When I did not graduate high school, I was so upset about it. I was upset at myself. I was upset at my parents. I was upset at just the lifestyle I was living in New York, and wanted to make a change for myself. So I came out here for the first time. But that was really what what really changed my mind with the whole acting thing. But anyway, my parents were able to convince me to come back, and I came back, and that's when I got my GED. Went back to college and started studying college in college. And after
what was the incident? Obviously, you were studying to be an accountant, and then you went into computers. What got you to say, you know what, I'm not going to do this path anymore. I'm going to move 100% into who I'm really meant to be, which is an actor?
Well, my friend and I, we put on a talent show at church one time while I was still in college in Pace University. And I believe I was playing Joseph at some point, Joseph from the Bible. And we had this entire, it's called a Christmas cantata, where a bunch of people come in and put in talent shows. But my friend and I, we organized this entire talent show ourselves, and we played characters in the show ourselves. And in the middle of that, normally when I'm in a character, I don't realize what's really going on around me. But being on stage this time, it was completely different because I was able to get reactions from the crowd right away. So as I was acting, I would kind of like, look out in the crowd a little bit, and I would see the reactions, see how much people were engaging or paying attention to us, or how they would gasp and or be excited or be sad. It's certain emotions that I would show, or certain gestures, or certain things that I would say on stage. So I started to realize slowly but surely, wow, there's power in acting. There really is power in acting. And that right there really changed my heart when it comes to acting. I said to myself that the next fall when I went back to school, I minored in film, basically. So I was still studying computer science, but I minored in film. And then it only took about a month and a half until I said, you know what, I'm just going to change my entire what do you call it?
Major?
Major, yeah. I changed my entire major to film itself, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to concentrate on film. Obviously, that's what I'm good at, so let me just stop fooling myself. And at that point, I was at an age that I thought that I can say or do anything that I wanted, as opposed to, being scared of my parents or what they would think or anything like that. So I came to my dad and I said, hey, Dad, look, I understand you're paying for my fees and my tuition for school, but honestly, this is what I want to do. I have a passion for it. It's always been in the back of my mind, but it's time that I put it up front. It's more important than anything else that I've been studying in college. And he was really upset about that. And, of course, we had arguments back and forth. But at the end of the day, my persistency, like I said, propelled me to where I needed to be.
So they became supportive of it?
They became supportive of it. Well, they were very hesitant, for a really long time. But, at the age of 21, that was when I moved out here in Los Angeles. And when I made that move completely, they at that point, they just said, you know what, we can't really change his mind. We cannot convince him of anything anymore at this point. So let's just let him be, But they were still worried. But, of course, at that point, I was a man then. They couldn't do anything about it. So
you came out to L.A. when you were 21. And
Yes.
What were your first steps? Here's another culture shock, Brooklyn to L.A.
Oh, gosh, yeah. It's like going from one big city, because Lagos in Nigeria, I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. That's a huge city, one of the biggest cities in Nigeria, to New York, one of the biggest cities in the East Coast, and to Los Angeles, one of the biggest cities in the West Coast. So I've been a city kid in big cities, of course, and, coming to another big city like Los Angeles, and like I said, I've previously visited at the age of 18, so I wasn't too shocked. But the adjustment was really hard because I knew no one here. I only had $150 in my pocket when I got off that Greyhound bus.
Which isn't going to get you very far in a town like L.A.
Not at all. Not at all. So it was really, really difficult. But
and you actually came by Greyhound bus. Wow.
I came by Greyhound bus. I didn't have enough money, or did my parents have enough money to even buy me a plane ticket?
It's like straight out of Central Casting there.
Exactly. And I tell my friends my story sometimes, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you should write a book,"
Yeah,
But literally.
I think I've seen that movie before, actually.
Right, exactly. Literally walked out the bus with just $150 in my pocket. I knew no one here in Los Angeles whatsoever, not a single soul. But I would have to say I was really blessed by God. My parents are very religious. I'm a very religious person myself, and I pray every day for favors and blessings and things like that. And a lady by the name of Mary Robinson, I would never forget her name. God rest her soul. But she basically she was a manager at a building in Inglewood. And I don't know how I ended up in Inglewood, but I just told the guy when I hopped in the cab, I just told him to take me to the cheapest place in Los Angeles, and he took me to Inglewood, So I got to Inglewood. I went to any apartment building, and I spoke to this lady. Her name is Mary Robinson, like I said, and she literally let me in to one of the vacant apartments that she had here in Inglewood, and she let me stay there for as long as I wanted to, until I got a job, until I got a car, until I was able to move out and do whatever it is that I wanted to do here in Los Angeles. But she was my guiding light. She knew she had no idea who I was, no idea what I was capable of, but God spoke to her, I guess, really touched her heart and said, you know what, I don't know who this kid is, but I'm gonna help him out, because
wow, and that's pretty courageous of you too, to go somewhere and ask for something like that, and you don't know her.
You know, I had to survive. Some way, somehow, I had to survive, and I was, like I said, I'm very persistent, and you know, she said I was really charming as well. You know, recalling the story now, she said you were extremely charming, and you reminded me so much of my grandson. So, but it was so funny because when she was able to rent a vacant apartment, she actually let me come down to her apartment. She had a 2-bedroom apartment, and she was staying by herself at the time. Her grandson actually was deployed to Iraq, and so I was able to stay with her for about 3 more months until I was able to find my own place in Inglewood. It was a little hole in the wall spot, you know, a bachelor room that I paid like $370 for a month. So, but it was huge favors that I've had, you know, since I've been here in Los Angeles. Nothing that I ever did was ever done with my own strength and might. It was just I had a lot of favors, and if I start listing the people that have done favors for me here in Los Angeles, I would be here all day, you know. So, but I'm really, really fortunate and really, really, you know, grateful for those people.
You got here. This wonderful woman, Mary Robinson, helped you with your place.
Yeah.
And how did you get on to acting here? Did you get jobs right away? Did you get an agent, a manager?
Okay, that was really difficult because that took me, I came in 2006, and that took me an extra 4 years. I'm the kind of person that likes to get comfortable where he is. So basically, in order to get a car, get a good job, and get an apartment, I don't like to come to a new environment and just really start, you know, going, like go. You go here, you go there, you know, you auditions here and there, try to find a manager, an agent, and, you know, I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to feel comfortable first where I was because I knew I was going to be here for a really long time. So it really took me an entire 4 years to get established. When I mean get established, I mean by being comfortable. So I started off with trying to get a job. I didn't have any qualifications really except for my acting credits and things like that. So I decided to get a security job. I felt like it was the easiest thing to do, and it would give me the flexibility perhaps to, you know, start going on auditions and things. So I got a job as a security officer, and I was working like around the Santa Monica area. So I was able to see a lot of celebrities too, which inspired me to start going on auditions and taking acting classes. But for some weird reason, I wasn't able to do that yet. You know, I felt like I wasn't ready for that because I haven't taken the right classes yet. I haven't taken the right acting classes. So I went on the computer, started doing research on the best acting classes, and I came across Howard Fine and Aaron Spicer Acting Studio, Ivana Chubbuck. These are all like really great acting studios in Los Angeles. And of course, I didn't have the income, you know, to to take those classes yet. So I was in survival mode at that point. So after getting the job, I needed to start finding a way to maneuver around Los Angeles, and some of the friends that I got from my coworkers pretty much were telling me, hey, Andrew, you have to get a car. You know, it's not like New York where you take the buses and the trains. It's completely different out here. People drive. So I had to get my license. I didn't even have a permit coming out here, so I had to get a permit first and then get my license. And then from there I had to go about getting a car. So I leased a vehicle, and so I got a job now and I got a car, and I was still staying with Mary at that point, and ended up getting an apartment, the bachelor apartment that I was telling you about. And I told Mary, you know, I was still pretty close to her, and I would come in every weekend and help her out, you know, the things around the house, you know, perhaps around the building as well, you know, help her sweep the place and, you know, help her water her plants and things like that. So, but on the weekday, I would go to my jobs. But I still didn't feel completely comfortable around Los Angeles yet, you know. So that took an entire 4 years, like I said. So in 2010, was when I really started taking my acting classes. So I started with Howard Fine's studio, and then I went to Ivana Chubbuck's studio, and then I went to Aaron Spizer's studio, and that's where I ended up. After Aaron Spizer's studio, I felt like I was sort of ready at that point. So I'd say that was the end of 2011 was when I really started auditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me ask you, what was going on during those 4 years? What do you think was transpiring that was preparing you or that you needed to go through so that you felt confident to start taking those acting classes and really focus again on your acting path?
Well, I felt like I needed to experience life to begin with. I needed that experience. I needed that struggle in order to understand what, this whole Los Angeles area is all about. I just needed to go around and feel the environment and just experience life itself and experience the corporate world as well, which is, I worked at an office building and the way people carry themselves professionally. All these things really helped me out professionally as far as like the way, like customer service, the way I carry myself and how courteous I am and stuff. So, I mean, I felt like I really needed that. Otherwise, I would have been just an immature kid trying to maneuver my way through Los Angeles, and it wouldn't have been pretty, in my sense, because I felt like I needed to mature. I was only 21 when I first came, and I was still learning a lot as far as life is concerned. So I would say that having a security job really, really helped me out when it comes to being professional, being courteous, wanting to help people, being professional, like I said, But it was a way to learn the corporate world, and I felt like whenever I do come into Tinseltown, I will be able to carry myself the same way because of the everything that I've learned.
And it is a business. It isn't just the creative aspect. You're dealing with business people who are making business decisions when they hire you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I felt like that was very important for me to gain. So after that happened, that's when I felt like, okay, it's time to start going on auditions and really starting to put everything that I've learned to work and see if it pans out for me.
So what was the first job that you landed then in acting here in LA? Was it the TV show The Client List?
It wasn't The Client List, no. It was my friend's. My friend had a short film that she was filming. It was a silent film, actually. There were no words spoken. It was just a bunch of gestures and body movements and things like that. So, but I played one of the boyfriends of her main character. But she basically just plugged me in there because she knew I was an actor, or I wanted to be an actor. So that was the first thing that I did, and that was around 2011, I think it was. So that was the first thing that I did. I didn't have to audition for it whatsoever. The first audition job that I went to, of course, I didn't get it. I was still pretty much green, but it was a fun experience because it was my first audition that I've ever gone to, ever. So I had no kind of preparation whatsoever for it, but it was good for me to experience that without any preparation. I just went in there just to see what it was like, and boy, was it an experience. It was great.
Yeah, that's a foreign experience, auditioning if you've never done that before.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It could be hellacious, or it could be joyful. It depends on how you approach it.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you started to get some smaller gigs. You did get on the client list, which you said was important to you, even though you had a rather small role. Yeah,
I got the client list via Central Casting. I heard about Central Casting in one of the auditions that I went to. And they said, hey, if you want to be an extra, just go to Central Casting. Brad Pitt started there. So I went in there, I registered myself, and funny enough, they called me the next day, and I got a gig at the client list the next day from registering the day before.
So you must have thought, hey, this shit works.
I know. I was like, wow, they're absolutely right. This works. I'm already booking something, so that was great. So I went in there not expecting anything whatsoever, and I was able to speak to a lot of people who were extras, and they've been doing extra work for years. So they were saying, like, what are you trying to be? Are you trying to be an actor, or are you trying to be an extra? And I was like, I'm not sure exactly, but I know I want to become an actor, And then, a lot of people gave me advice as well over there. It was like, well, if you want to be an actor, then this is not the world for you. You should do this, you should do that, you should register yourself on Actors Access, you should register yourself in LA Casting, Casting Frontier. So I just kept taking notes down and just like really, paying attention to what they were saying to me. When I got home, I signed up for Actors Access, I signed up for LA Casting. And all of these things cost money, by the way. It's so expensive to maneuver yourself through Los Angeles because everything requires money. So once I paid for all those subscriptions, I started submitting myself for short films, like USC films, UCLA short films, student projects. I would go in, audition, and like I said, I really didn't have any experience auditioning, but I would just use my natural God-given talent. And I booked a lot of things when it comes to short films and student projects, especially dramatic roles. I booked a lot of dramatic roles. I booked some comedy.
And is that what you were drawn to, or did you, did you like other genres? Did you like the horror films or the thrillers or the political intrigue or the comedies or the romantic,
Drama always stood out to me. I would say drama was my first love. When it comes to movies, because I remember watching a lot of Sidney Poitier, and I would watch a lot of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Denzel Washington, and these guys were like one of the top of my list, and they always did drama, and they were always good at it. I never really saw them do much of a lot of comedy, except the older Robert De Niro. He's dabbled in comedy, and he's been successful
Midnight
at
Run,
it now.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But when he was younger, it was just I felt it was like a lot of dramatic movies that they did. So that was my first love. Not to say that I didn't take classes for improv and comedy sketches and things like that in order to get better with comedy, but that was my first love, and that's what I found myself booking a lot of when it came to like student films. Like I would play the distorted child, or the kid that's on drugs or something like that, the kid that's been losing his mind, or the kid that's been suppressed his entire life, or So I was drawn to those roles, and I was able to book a lot of them, just based on my natural talents. So that's where it started. Do any of those projects or even some features from that time stand out as experiences that you want to share with the listeners? Absolutely. There was a short that I did called Off Pace, and I actually played. I was young then, but I played a 21-year-old kid who had 3 kids already. He came from Nigeria. So it wasn't a far stretch for me, but as far as like the, having kids, that was different for me because I don't have any kids, so I had to do a lot of research on that about how to, be a parent, or a single parent for that matter, to 3 sons and be able to, balance going to school, taking care of your kids, going to work at night, and just the stress of just, being an adult when you are still really a child. You're still learning a lot about life and things like that. So I had to learn or do my research and speak to a lot of like single parents that I knew at that time as to how they carried themselves and how they went about it and how difficult it was, and just, what it takes, to really go about your everyday life. And it was so difficult, and they would tell me stories upon stories, and I had to just get my note and just like really start writing things down, and a lot of it I incorporated to the character that I played. So I would say that was like that was one that really stood out for me, because that was the biggest role that I had up until that time. but it was great. It was a great experience. I really needed that, and I was like the first on the call sheet, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, you know, I'm already I'm on the pace right now. I'm setting the goals for the kinds of roles that I want to take, and the kinds of films that I want to do. So that was a turning point for me.
Mm-hmm. And then you did quite a few projects, and one of them is Tempting Fate, which is about to be released or has just come out. Tell us about Tempting Fate.
Tempting Fate is a story about two brothers, Nigerian brothers. One of them has cancer. My character had cancer. And Ramsey Noah, he is a huge star in Nigeria. They call him the Leonardo DiCaprio of Nigeria, basically. He plays my older brother, and our parents
You're in
both
good
died.
Company.
In great company. I was really fortunate with this role. But both our parents died of cancer, and my character is very religious. He goes to church all day long. He would preach to his brother about repenting and being saved by God, and he has this faith, this huge faith that God will heal him of his cancer. And his brother is the opposite. He basically takes on the street, and he wants to get money for my character, you know, to pay for his medical bills and things like that. But he would sell drugs, and he was involved in gangs. And, you know, but his heart is in the right place, but he's doing the wrong things, basically. But that's what the story is about. It's about two brothers, how much they love each other. They really do love each other. And I wouldn't say one is good and one is bad, but, you know, one makes some really terrible decisions. And in the end of the film, a lot of it they come clashing together, basically, based on their personalities and the way they are. But it was a huge role that I was able to get through LA casting, and I remember submitting for it, and I went in for the audition, and it was such an easy audition. The casting director, her name is Jamie. She made it so easy for me as far as just no pressure whatsoever. She just said, "Come in, do what you need to do, and don't worry about anything. Like, you know, don't be pressured, or don't be nervous or anything like that. I'm really laid back. So just do your thing. I'm not going to bother you. I just want to see what you've got, you know." So once she said that, I really kind of just it was easy sailing at that point. So the audition went great, and then she casted me for it. And then actually I got a call back first, and then I met with the director. His name is Kevin. And I walked into the room thinking I was just going to, you know, read for him again. He literally just looks at me, and he started telling me about the project. And he said, okay, this is what the project's about. The character is this, and, you know, this is a guy playing your brother, and, like, you know. So he didn't have me read it over again, or, you know, so it wasn't really a callback. It was just for him to meet me in person. So he ends up telling me, you know what, I'm just going to give you the role because my wife saw your tape. I was really skeptical about you at first, but my wife saw your tape and she kept on saying, that's your character, that's your guy, you need to pick him, he's really good, you know. So that's how I got the role.
It's amazing. You know, there's so many great actors, and you can just do a wonderful acting, you can give a great audition, but it really does come down to, do we see this person as the character? And
exactly.
That's the way acting is. You really can't take anything personally if you don't get selected or you do get selected, because, you know, obviously you have to be talented, you have to be, you know, be a great actor, but so much of it just has to do with a look, with just maybe an attitude, a little trait. There's just something, right, that says to the casting director, to the director, to the producer, this is our guy.
Absolutely.
So it is just amazing. That's amazing right there.
You know what's funny? About 3 months ago, right before I booked that role, I went for a role. The name of the character was Michael, and it was a film called Bugged, and it was just basically down to myself and one of my really good friends that actually live around my neighborhood as well. And he's an actor, and it was just down to both of us. And Laura, I could tell you, I went back for about 6-7 callbacks for this project. And it was just, I felt like, okay, it's either I get this thing or I don't. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I just kept on going back for callbacks. But it was just down between the both of us the entire time. So anyway, he ends up getting it, and the director calls me, he personally calls me, and he says, you know what, Andrew, I really wanted to pick you, and you were perfect for the role. You were great. You're a good actor. You're a great actor, actually. It's just I had to go with him because he looks a lot older than you do. You know what I'm saying? He looks older than you are, even though you guys are the same age. Like, you have such a baby face that I ended up, going with him. Well, and mind you, we had to play a 17-year-old, and I was so devastated by that. I was like, that was the reason? Like, I couldn't believe it, and I was just so devastated. I was, of course, congratulated my friend.
You really can't take it personally. You know that you're a great actor.
Exactly. And that's why when you just said that, it just reminded me of that. I was just like, you know what, I could not take that personally, but at that point I was just so devastated because I wanted it so badly. And my friend and I, we were just like really jockeying for this role, and he ends up getting it. I congratulated him, but I was upset at myself. But that's just me being a perfectionist and me being headstrong.
But then it also has opened other doors for you for whatever project came next. And certainly the fact that you do look younger than you actually are served you well for Devil Dogs, because you had to play a Marine who is much younger than you, and you pulled it off. And before we jump into Devil Dogs, because I can't wait to talk to you about that, wrapping up with Tempting Fate, where can people go and see this? Is this being released in theaters? Is it available on Blu-ray or digital, or do you know how that's getting released?
Right now, we had our first premiere for Tempting Fate on July 4th in Houston, Texas, because he wanted to target a lot of the Nigerian audience out there in Houston. Apparently, there are a lot of Nigerians out there in Houston. And we had a very successful premiere on the 4th of July. It was really great. A lot of people turned out. We had about, I'd say, like 500 people filled the theaters to watch the movie.
That is a great turnout, especially on a holiday.
Oh, my gosh. It was incredible. And it was my first, official premiere. And I played the lead in the movie. So it was a lot of the questions came to me. And there were people who were asking me questions about my lifestyle, about the kind of person I am, where I was born, where I grew up. So it was all sort of new to me in a sense, So, but it was a great experience. I learned a lot from it. And then we're going to be having our second. We got picked up by a festival in Garden Grove, which is in Orange County, California. We're going to be having our second screening on the 16th, which is on Thursday of this week, 2014. It was picked up by it's called the Indie Festival, Los Angeles International Film Festival and Music. So what it is.
So it sounds like Tempting Fate is doing the festival circuit right now. So people might be able to just, kind of keep their ears and eyes open and maybe coming to a festival near them.
Absolutely. So this is our first festival, basically, that we've entered. We had the first premiere in Houston. So this is the first festival that picked up our movie. And he submitted to a bunch of other festivals, so we're waiting to hear word from them. But this is the first official festival. So we'll be going to that on Thursday, October 16th. So we're all excited about it. Everyone is going to be there. Everyone, because we shot the movie here in Los Angeles, so we'll get to invite all our friends and family, because not a lot of people were able to make it to Houston, and I mean friends and family. But since we shot it out here in Los Angeles, a lot of people that are friends and family will be able to make it to that. So I'm so excited about it.
And people should watch for it coming to a festival near them. There's so many amazing film festivals all around the country that happen all year long. So watch for that, and then hopefully it'll be available on Blu-ray. Is there a website that you know of for the film, or?
Yeah, the website for the film is called www.temptingfatemovie.com. So if you log on to that, you'll be able to read up on the story. You'll be able to watch the trailer, look at the characters, some of the production pictures that we've had on there, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that we have there as well. And the production company that actually produced the film, you can also go in there and look them up, and they're actually based out in Atlanta, Georgia, but they have their website as well called KevStelGroup.com. So, but yeah, TemptingFateMovie.com, that's the website for the film.
And we'll have that URL underneath the podcast too, so if you're on the site, you can just go down there and you can click on it and check it out.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to jump into Devil Dogs because obviously I'm excited about that project as the writer producer of
right.
it. And in Devil Dogs, you play Private First Class Keller.
Yes.
And he's the intellectual of the group, and he comes from an impoverished background and neighborhood outside of Detroit, which is actually where I grew up, and I purposefully made Keller have that background because it was something that I knew and that could lend to his character.
The Motor City.
Yeah, the Motor City. So let me ask you, what drew you to this? Why did you want to be involved in this project?
Well, my agency, Ming Talent, submitted me for this project, and when I read the description for the character Keller, I was immediately drawn to him. Because first of all, like I said, I've played a Marine guy before. And
well, actually, you haven't said that to our audience. I know that. So yeah, you played a Marine.
I played a Marine guy. Before
in a project called Sovereign.
And based on my background with my brother being in the Army and just the knowledge that he's passed on to me about the military, I felt like this is perfect for me. They need an African American around an age range that I can play and
that you look like, yeah.
That I look like, and just the impoverished version that you were talking about. I've been through that grittiness of Nigeria and Brooklyn, New York, and I felt like I can relate, to that. Some of the years that my parents and I and our family have struggled, and the bad neighborhoods and the bad schools that I've been to in Brooklyn, New York. I felt like I can bring a lot to this character, a lot of authenticity to this character. And Keller is, I wouldn't say he's exactly like me. I did a lot of research for my character Keller. Keller is more of he's a very smart kid, and I would say that's what I can relate to that being an intellectual. But as far as the way he carries himself, Keller is just. He's very reserved. He's a very reserved person. But on top of that, he cannot. You cannot just walk all over him as well. You know what I'm saying? He can bring out that other side in him. It's in there, but he chooses to be the way he is. He's a very reserved person, very intellectual. Everything that comes out of his mouth is either something to educate you or to motivate you or something like that. But and also the character, calling his father all the time. He has a great relationship with his pops, which I do as well. So I was able to relate to that.
His father has a major influence on him, and is one of the reasons that he became a Marine.
Exactly.
But there is a bit of a dichotomy in Keller because he has the vocabulary that you use in a locker room, and yet he is the intellectual, he is the academic, and he's the smart guy who knows computers and reads. We actually have a scene where he's reading and quoting from The Art of War. So were there similarities in that? Between you and Keller?
There were definitely similarities in that because I read a lot. I would go to Samuel French and I will buy plays and books, and I would read all day long when it comes to just educating yourself. And I like to do that. I believe Keller is the same. Keller likes to educate himself, whether it's reading his own personal books or going on a computer and doing research or, trying to find out more about what war is really about, because I don't feel like the character Keller, he doesn't just want to go to war. He wants to know the reason why he's fighting. He wants to know why we have to fight. He has to know everything about, just war itself. It's not just about killing. he has one of the quotes in the movie. He says, war ain't poetry. It's not poetry. There's a science to it. There's something to it, other than that. People would, you could see, even some of the stories that my brother would tell me, he would say, oh man, people just join the army just because they want to shoot a gun or they want to shoot people or just be a part of a war. But for Keller, it's completely different. Keller does not think that way. Keller he doesn't want to join the Marines in order to shoot people or, there's always something tactical about it. It's not poetry for him. It's just, there's a grittiness to the war. Obviously, he knows that as well, but he knows that it's not all about that as well. That's what makes him so smart, and that's what makes him, stand out from the rest of them. And the fact that his father is a Marine guy, and he takes up on his father's footsteps, and he wanted to be like his dad and do something good with his life, especially coming from where he came from. He felt like he needed to do something positive. He needed to do something right. And I really love that character. I love that about him because I thought it's the same as me. Coming out here in Los Angeles, I felt like I needed to do something different with my life. I needed to do something right with my life. He felt like this was his calling. Although later on in the film, he started to wonder why he was actually serving in the Marines, why he was actually out there in Iraq, because he didn't see the point of it anymore when he started seeing the craziness that was happening out there. But
I think a lot of it too was he was also it wasn't the experience that he expected.
Exactly.
And who's to say what you would expect, but that is kind of where he was coming from. And also when I was writing the script, and I did a lot of research, and I talked to a lot of Marines and actual Marines who were in Fallujah, many of them are really there for one another. It is a true brotherhood, and I would say, and I noticed this, that the cast of actors who played the Marines in Devil Dogs really seemed to bond and become like their own little band of brothers. Did you have that sense with the other actors?
Oh my gosh, these guys are incredible. John, Rayon, Greg, and Andres. I mean, we all. It was almost like love at first sight. It really was, and we were like brothers, literally. The first time we met each other, which was I met Greg, and I believe I met Rayon at the audition. I was talking to them outside of the audition room before we actually went in, and we connected. Even on the first day of meeting each other, they were so easy to talk to. Obviously, Greg has a lot of military background.
Yeah, Greg is a U.S. Marine veteran. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was able to get a lot from him before I even went into the audition room. So added to what my brother already told me and some of the research that I've done of the military, and then him, giving me a lot of insights. When I walked in there with a lot of confidence, so that really helped me out a lot. And
let me ask you about the audition. We did our auditions a little differently than most auditions go. This was not one-on-one. We put the 5 Marines together in the audition room, and you were just kind of thrown in with whomever was there auditioning for the other parts at that time.
Right.
And obviously there's good to that because you can play off of each other, and then there's also a negative to that, is that, hey, you might end up next to a really great, prepared, established actor who feeds you, or you may end up next to a guy who wasn't prepared and really doesn't have the experience, and that can maybe drag you down or not pull out the best performance in you. And we were so well aware of that because we filmed the entire auditions all day long to see, what was going on. And when we went back, we really had to just look at each individual actor and what they were doing, and not so much how they were playing off of others, because that was luck of the draw who you were thrown in with.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I would have to say it was one of the best auditions that I've had, because I've never had an audition as a group before, so it was my first time, and I just felt was so comfortable in my skin. I was so comfortable in the room with all you ladies there as well. You guys made it so comfortable for all of us as well. And there was no pressure whatsoever. And like I said, I bonded with the guys outside already. So when I went in, it was so easy. You know, it was so relaxed and comfortable. I really enjoyed that very much.
Well, great, because that was a very different experience or a different way to conduct auditions, but we felt that we needed to do it because was an ensemble piece, and we wanted to see how actors worked with other actors. And so once you got the part, how did you prepare? You talked about your brother because he was in the Army for 5 years. How did he help you, or did he help you at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was the first phone call I made when I got the role. I got the role. My agent called me and said, "Hey, Andrew, they really loved you, and they would like to give you the role." And I said I was so happy. I was just super excited. And then she said she'll give me more information about it later. So as soon as I hung up, and I live with my sister. And I told her about it. She was very excited about it as well. I picked up the phone right away and I called my brother, and he answered, and I said, "Okay, I just booked this movie, and I play a Marine, I first class Marine in the movie." And right away he went into it. He just started telling me, "Okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna do your research about how technical little technical things like how you hold your weapon, and like even though I've done that before, it was good to kind of like get that again. You know what I'm saying? I needed him to tell me that again." And then we did
have consultants on set, which also helped with that.
Exactly. I mean, those guys were just incredible. These guys are combined have years of experience in the military, in the Marines especially. So it was really, really great to have them on set and really show us the little technical details that we needed to know as actors. When you hold your weapon, you hold it down, and you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot, and little things like that. We really needed to hear that. Otherwise, we would have been making a bunch of mistakes all over the place, So I'm so glad they were on set. They were really helpful. But my brother was just telling me, "This is how you cut your hair. This is how you carry yourself. This is how you speak. This is how you walk." And then, then he started telling me stories about, little incidents that would happen on set. I mean, not on set, but on the base camp. People would some like friendly fires and things like that. So you have to try to avoid, not having your gun off safety, while you're, sleeping or something like that, So he really taught me a lot when it comes to like the technical aspects of things, So I was very grateful for that.
Oh, that's great. That's invaluable to show up, and you were very prepared. Let me ask you. Obviously, a script and the actual film are very different from one another, and we try to put so much character onto the page, but until it really comes to life on the set and on camera, it's not really the same thing. What do you think that you brought to the role of Keller that wasn't on the page?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I would have to give a lot of credit to yourself, Laura. I mean, the writer.
Oh, right answer. Good answer.
No, to be honest with you, I mean, we didn't do a lot of improv. Like, we try to make things as authentic as possible, but a lot of it were already on the page. You didn't have to stretch out in order to get the right words out or whatever. Like, if it says on the script that, Keller picks up his book and he starts to read The Art of War, like, this and that, and it's already on the script. I didn't have to, say anything extra or felt like I needed to do anything extra in order to improve the dialogue or anything like that. But no, credit to you, Laura. I mean, everything was on page. I didn't have to do anything extra.
Well, good. Though I do think that actors always do bring something to the role that wasn't there, that we didn't foresee, because you're bringing something of yourself or something of your experience or something that you see in the character. and it just expands that character and makes them more real and more human.
Right. Right.
One thing that I think that you brought were I didn't have Keller wearing glasses.
I was just going to mention that right now.
And that little detail makes a difference. It just really shows or emphasizes, hey, he is an intellectual, because you just kind of associate that with someone who wears glasses.
Right.
And I thought that was a great little detail. So I think there were definitely things that you brought to the role that wasn't on the page, and we did allow some improv, of course, and you guys really went with it. Being the writer, I always want to hold on to, hey, wait a minute, I didn't write that dialogue. But I also see that this is a collaboration, and that the real art happens when it's a collaboration and people bring ideas and things to the project that we hadn't expected. And we tried to get all that done and out during rehearsal, but some of it did happen on set. And so I think that you did really bring a lot to the role. Whether you can remember the little details of that right now, I think that you did.
Oh, thanks, Laura. I mean, once I get a character or once I get a role, I usually have a diary of the character. I start with that first, and literally I start from the beginning, from the top, and where I was born, what hospital it was, what time I was born, the exact date, and then how I grew up. Was it a single parent? Was it, both my parents there? Did I have any siblings whatsoever? So I have an entire diary of every character that I write. And then, part of the description says that Keller is an intellectual. Not that I necessarily had to give him glasses in order to show that he's a smart guy, but I just felt that Keller, being the kind of person that he is, he reads a lot, and I wrote it within the character that, he's always had eye problems, not in the sense that, he's completely blind or anything like that, but he's extremely nearsighted. That's what I put. So he has to wear glasses in order to to read a book or read the computer or anything like that. But as far as like everyday life, he can easily go by just, and he can see well, but just not when it comes to reading off the computer or a book, that he would need his glasses for that. So I was able to incorporate little things like that to the character and make him a little bit more authentic and a little bit more real to people. And hopefully when people watch it, they will be able to say that, hey, I can relate to this guy when it comes to that, And being on set and then just, I love the fact that the cast, yourself, like the writer, director, the cinematographer, I like the fact that everyone basically gave us leeway in order to do what we wanted. There was a lot of open dialogue within everyone. And I know you're the the writer-producer, not the writer-director, but the director also gave us a lot of room to work on magic as well as actors.
He probably gave you more room than I did.
Well,
because there were certain things that like, wait a minute, we don't want to lose this line over here. This is a good line. It took me a while to write that line.
Absolutely, because there were times where they wanted to take out a few lines and add something different, and you would jump in and say, hey, you know what, this is really important because, and you would explain the reason why it's important. And I love that because it's true, because we don't want to have something contradicting each other at the end of the movie, so it's just, this line has to be here for a certain reason, and I just love the fact that you were very very hands-on on that, and which was great. We needed that, because otherwise we'll be jumping off the railing, at some point.
Yeah, so, we may have had a different movie at the end of the day.
We would have, exactly. So I'm so glad you were there on set, and I'm glad everyone was there, and people were just so supportive, and I just like the fact that it was a collaboration, but between actors, producers, and directors. It was fun. It's a great shoot, and something that I would live with for the rest of my life and be appreciative of.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and we're not done yet. We're still moving forward with it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So moving forward, what's your next project? I know that you've got something that you're working on called Brunched. Tell us about that.
I am an executive producer, and I will also be playing a little part in the show. It's called Brunched, the series, and it's basically a bunch of friends, let's say 9 of them, that instead of going to church on Sunday, they basically just have brunch on Sunday, and they would talk about their stories that happened to them the whole week. And stuff happens to them individually, and stuff also happens to them as a collective group. And when I say stuff, and I mean just like everyday events, like, like going to work. And if someone asked me to describe the show, I would always say it's a combination of Friends meets Will and Grace meets Sex and the City. It's really that funny, and it's raw, it's in your face. And it's a very diverse cast. We have African Americans in there, Caucasians. We have Asians in there, just different ethnicities. And it takes place in New York, where New York is really like a melting pot. Where it just has all types of ethnicities in there. So.
And are you filming in New York, or are you?
We're going to be
appear to look like New York?
We're going to be filming here on stages, like, on sound stages and on sets over here. There's some things that you just cannot replicate, though, in New York. So we're thinking that a few episodes we might be going to New York to shoot a few things. But for the most part, we're going to be shooting here in Los Angeles. We've already done, like, principal photography. We've gotten a campaign up. We got our website up already. So, and at the end of the day, we're trying to pitch to, like, Netflix and Hulu and Starz and Showtime. But it's
But you're going to start it as a web series to gain that traction and that audience.
Exactly. We just try to build up a little audience and build up a little fan base before we're able to get it out there. Just so we can have a little bit more.
And you've got a very different role for you, being an executive producer. So how does that feel, and what kind of skills does that take?
This is a new world for me. Just like everything that I've learned in my life. It's a challenging experience, but it's worth it. It takes an entirely different role. Basically, you have to be involved in everything. As an executive producer, you have to, and I mean, the staging, the principal photography, editing, director as well, like, just talking to them about just the projects, the pitching of the projects, just to fund some of the stuff that you do, like, the editing that we did for our promo videos. It's an entirely different world, and I'm learning as I go along. But one of my business partners, his name is Corey Wright. He's been very instrumental in teaching me and helping me learn. There are a bunch of books that I've been reading about it. There's one of them that actually stands out to me right now called Save the Cat. Mm-hmm. It's very important to learn things like that. If you're going to be an actor, it's good to learn the nuances of what happens behind the scenes as well. So. And I'm the kind of person that when someone said I like to soak up everything. So even when I was on set with Devil Dogs, I was asking the cinematographer, so what do you do with this camera? How does this red camera work? How does this work? How does that work? I'm pretty sure they were sick of me asking all those crazy questions. But
no, I mean that's an opportunity you want to take advantage of it. I know that when you had wrapped, your character was done, but we were still shooting. You came and you sat down at the monitors and whatnot, or looked at the monitors, and
absolutely,
and you should. This is when, you want to. So do you aspire to be a director or?
Eventually, yeah. Once I feel like because I need to establish myself first as an actor, and I believe I'm well on my way in doing that. But eventually I do want to dabble in a little bit more directing and producing. And, that's just going to be the ultimate goal. But right now I'm just focusing on acting. And it was just a really good friend of mine that approached me with this project. And I said, you know what, I want to be a part of it. Just because I read the entire 9 episodes and I couldn't stop laughing as to how funny the show was, and I said, you know what, some way, somehow, I have to be involved in this. And he said, you know what, let's start a production company. let's start a production company and let's be the executive producers of this thing, and I will teach you everything that you need to know. So, and like I said, I've before, I've had a lot of people, on my way up, teach me a lot of things and done favors for me and in my life. And I would say my business partner is one of them, definitely.
Yeah, it's really great to have a creative partner. Instead of trying to do it all alone. So good for you, and I'm excited about your project for you, and you've got a campaign going, and people are going to be able to see the show on the internet, and we'll have all of the links below the podcast again, but maybe you could just shout out right now the URL for the project.
Sure. Brunch the Series right now, we have a website going. It's called www.brunchtheseries.com. It was originally called Brunch, but that name was taken already, so we changed it to Brunched with an ED, theseries.com.
I like that better anyway, Brunched. It stands out.
I like that too.
See,
really
things
like
happen
that.
for a reason. At first you might think, oh, darn, why is this happening? But it makes you get creative, and usually you get better results when you do that. So
Absolutely. And we're on Facebook as well, facebook.com/brunched-the-series as well. So you can look us up there. We have our Indiegogo campaign on there. You can just click on that and, help, contribute, just support a bunch of young, talented people here in Los Angeles trying to do good.
who are gonna bring you wonderful entertainment for sure. So, Andrew, thank you so much for your time today and for your stories and your insights and sharing your experiences. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share? Any thoughts that you'd like?
I would like to say, well, first of all, thank you, Laura, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to work with you. I cannot wait till I work with you in the future again. It was a great experience, not just you, but everyone, the cast and the crew. And finally, just words of wisdom. I always live by this, and my dad, said a lot of it to me as well. But just wanted to share with people that you will never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. I don't know if anyone's ever heard this saying before. I heard it first from one of my great idols, Denzel Washington, which means basically you cannot take it with you. So as successful as you get, you should always give back. Give back to the community, give back to the earth, give back to whatever charitable event that you feel that your heart is passionate about. Just give back, and you will be rewarded somehow, some way. The universe has a way of working itself out, in that sense. So I will say it again, you would never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. So always give back. You cannot take it with you to the grave, and be appreciative, be thankful every day for the breath that you have in your lungs. Be thankful every day for the opportunities that you get in order to live this life that we live here in this beautiful earth. So just wanted to put that out there in the universe.
Oh, well, what a great quote and a beautiful sentiment. Thank you so much for sharing, Andrew.
Oh, you're welcome, Laura. Anytime.